It's time now to take a look at stories making headlines on the front page of Nigerian newspapers, and I begin with the Daily Trust. The major story here: 60 hours after, Kuriga students yet to reunite with families. 60 hours after, Kuriga students yet to reunite with families, and the writers here says, "We are eager to have them back home," parents are saying. They are undergoing psychotherapy. A government submission of 2 lists responsible for 287 figure residents. Bandits camping yellow Janbros behind abduction. And another story: IPOP funding terrorism through sports betting platforms, crowdfunding. The federal government is saying this. Chinese sentenced to death for killing Nigerian girlfriend in Kano. Gumi, I discussed how to curb banditry with security agencies. Recalls that he was called for questioning by the federal government, and he has said that there is no cause for alarm, and he just had a conversation discussing how to curb banditry with security agencies. Now, amid rising or soaring inflation, CBN raises benchmark lending rate to 24.7%, uncovers 52.4 billion naira forex scam. Decision putting pressure on banks, experts are saying. BDC rate appreciates to 1,304 to a dollar. Quickly, we'll move on to the Vanguard newspaper now. And the major story here: Okwama, how government security bodies fail to rein in militant leader. This is a Vanguard investigation. I petitioned the presidency, state government, security bodies to no avail. That's one of the chiefs speaking there. Troops knew where the killer was and went there. A monarch is saying, a monarch forced to take oaths of allegiance to militant leaders. These are some of the riders there. And quickly to another story: Kuka to federal government interrogate persons with ties to bandits. No cause for alarm, says Gumi, after questioning by security agents. And another story: banditries and fire under siege. Governor Lawal tells Tinubu. Some stories you find on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. To the New Telegraph now, still talking about Okwama. Soldiers invaded my country home, father's compound, Clark is saying. Says troops claim they were looking for soldiers' killers, seek judicial inquiry into Okwama tragedy. Residents flee Kiagbodo following invasion. Army buried 17 slain officers, soldiers today. Deal with Zamfara bandits, read north of insecurity. Lament state under siege. Tinubu to judges, we must treat kidnappers as terrorists. And another story here: 2023 polls. PDP reads Route Act demands list of anti-party members. All right, some stories you'll find on the front page of the New Telegraph. And to this Nigerian newspaper: banditries and for under siege. Governor Lawal cries out, rushes to presidential villa, tells Tinubu northern Nigeria heading for crisis if nothing is done. We've curbed kidnap of students in Borno, Zulum said. Now, why we need more Indian investors in FCT, Wike is saying. Those are some of the stories you find on the front page of this Nigerian newspaper. To the Nation newspaper: Governor, my state epicenter of kidnapping and banditry. That's Governor Lawal of Zamfara speaking, and is seeking full military action to stop bandits. To the front page of the Blueprints newspaper: Save Zamfara from terrorism to protect the north. Lawal begs Tinubu. That's the major story there. CBN raises interest rate to 24.75%, probes $2.4 billion FX transactions. Some of the stories you find on the front page of the Blueprint. And to the Platform Times now: treat kidnappers as terrorists. Tinubu tells judges amidst rising abduction. Some stories you find on the front page of the Platform Times. Theophilus.
Yeah, we move to the Matrix from my end. It says here: insecurity. Tinubu talks tough, says kidnappers are cowards, must be treated as terrorists. Ex-minister calls for non-kinetic approach, cautions federal government against wasting too much money on acquiring arms and ammunition. says millions of out-of-school children in northern Nigeria are a production factory for banditry. Gumi reviews outcome of interaction with security agents, says it was productive. NCC directs telcos to disconnect all registered SIMs without proper NI linkage. Subscribers have until Friday to rectify issues or be disconnected. Eniola reacts to alleged viral clip of him with another man in bed. Okwama's killing, I have forgiven military for invading my country home, says Pa Edwin Clark. Dauda Lawal seeks President Tinubu's assistance to end insecurity, banditry in Zamfara State. That's in the Matrix newspaper this morning. Moving on to leadership, CBN's 24.75% rate hike puts borrowers on the edge. DSS invited me to find solution to banditry, says Sheikh Gumi. As attacks on farmers escalate, 18.6 million Nigerians face acute hunger. And the public sector most affected by corruption, says survey. Chinese who killed Nigerian girlfriend to die by hanging. IPOB gets funds from affiliates in 22 countries, says NFIU. Okwama, slain soldiers for burial today. That's in the leadership newspaper this morning. The Nigerian News Direct says economy policy overhaul. Again, CBN hikes MPR by 200 basis points to 24.75% amid inflationary pressures. As adjusts merchant bank's cash reserve ratio to 14%, MPC focuses on food insecurity to address skyrocketing inflation, says Cardoso. Come to our aid, we're under siege, says Zamfara governor, appeals to Tinubu. Styrofoam ban. Local food vendors defy government. They cry high economic costs. That's in the Nigerian News Direct this morning. The Business Times says, why we hiked MPR to 24.75%, says MPC. Experts flay decision, says it will lead to recession. Urge CBN to have regard to growth concerns. Credits to private sector hit 80.9 trillion naira amid rising inflation rates. Poor infrastructure a challenge to Africa's e-commerce, says UNECA. It's SEC's duty to regulate cryptocurrency transaction, not CBN, says Cardoso. Says collaboration with SEC, EFCC, NSA on Binance positive. We move to the Punch newspaper this morning. CBN, EFCC probe banks, firms over alleged forex racketeering. CBN implements Deloitte FX audit report. EFCC may summon CEOs over $2.4 billion invalid request. Several FX requests fraudulent, made with invalid illegal documents, says Cardoso. Tinubu to vet Foreign Affairs Ministry's ambassadorial list. NCC insists on same NIN deadline, telcos bar lines Friday. Unemployment responsible for rising banditry kidnapping, says Obasanjo. 6 missing, 2 rescued as U.S. cargo ship destroys Baltimore Bridge. That's in the Punch newspaper this morning. Now let's move to Business Day. CBN hikes rates again in push to tame inflation. Raises merchant bank CRR to 14%. 600 basis points increase enough to attract foreign investors, says analyst. Airfare crash on international routes over FX. Airpeace debut. President Tinubu did not foresee the enormity of Nigeria's challenges, says Bayo Onanuga. Beyond the podium leaves lessons from the 2023 African Games. That's in Business Day this morning. We move to the Salient Times. Nigeria needs $35 billion yearly for infrastructure expenditure, says federal government. We discussed how to end banditry, says Gumi, as he reveals details of meeting with security agencies. El Rufai visits Gowon after meeting SDP leaders amidst talk of plans to dump APC. Airfares crash on international routes over FX. Airpeace debut. Tinubu planning to fight hunger, poverty with science, says minister. CBN raises interest rate to 24.75%. That's in Salient Times newspaper this morning. Now let's move to Daily Independent. Why Nigerian airlines can't be part of global alliance, says expert. NUPRC gives crude oil committee 48 hours to improve production supply. Nigeria seeks WTO partnership on digital marine economy development. We're not helping the country when farmers get loans at 25% interest rate, says Obasanjo. 5 suspects arrested over murder of 6 policemen in Delta State. I discussed how to curb banditry with security agents, says Gumi. New interest rate at 24.75% may worsen banks' NPL, says analysts, say manufacturers will find it difficult to operate. Equities market response down 0.20%. That's in the Daily Independent newspaper this morning. Let's move to Nature News. It says federal government confirms ginger blight epidemic in FCT 3 states. Kamik backs Nimobasis advocacy against GMO foods in Nigeria. Aftermath of Nature News report on coastal erosion, NDDC visits Bayelsa community. Microsoft partners with the Next 150 to advance carbon removal efforts. Salacor pledges to address challenges of methane emission in Nigeria. Fish farmers lament death of hundreds of tilapia fish in their ponds. Danicare, England's scrum half, retires from international rugby. That's in the Nature News this morning. Finally, we move to sports news. Napoli sessions, cement trains alone awaits clearance for Atalanta's tie Saturday. Mali 2, Nigeria 0. Torres Dumba's goals spoil Finidi's record. Victor Ekpeba, Eagles' job looking good for Finidi. Isaac refuses to rule out stunning Arsenal move. Of course, we have several other headlines. Haaland meets with Xavi over potential Barca move. And of course, if you can check the Sporting Life newspaper for more sporting stories here.
Right. I believe that we have updated our viewers on what the headlines are saying this morning. But let's quickly move on now. Interpol and other security agencies are on the trail of fleeing Binance director